Lies are a funny thing because when I was a child, in an effort to get me to eat, my grandmother told me a very effective white lie. She said, if you don't eat, your soul will get hungry and it will get trapped in the rice cooker while looking for food. Even at a young age, I knew my soul was important, so I kind of wanted to hang on to it. This was an easy sell for such a young child whose world was so small. Of course souls existed, and of course they got hungry. My grandmother told me this lie because she was trying to shape me into a child who ate their dinner. Arguably, this lie had a positive effect, but only because the intent behind it was kind and caring. However, what happens when lies aren't told with the same love and care? What if they're told with ill intent? Betrayal. Hey, that's in the title of the video. To really understand why I think that betrayal is horror, you have to understand what betrayal means to me. What is betrayal? Merriam-Webster currently defines betrayal as to reveal unintentionally, to fail or desert, especially in time of need, to deliver to an enemy by treachery, and to lead astray or seduce. I really don't get this part of it, but in my not so humble opinion, challenging Merriam-Webster, none of these really encapsulate the type of betrayal that I personally fear. The betrayal that I've had the displeasure of being subjected to. Betrayal, in my experience, more often than not, happens to us in intimate relationships. And these definitions don't focus enough on the two-way nature of what happens to us in betrayal in intimate relationships. There can only be betrayal if there was trust first, and betrayal is the violent act of dismantling that trust. And that is what is at the crux of betrayal and what is so utterly horrifying about it. So I want to propose a new definition. Betrayal is the violation of trust for personal gain. And once you've experienced it, it changes you forever. Here is the thing about betrayal. It attacks the very thing we need to exist. As humans, we are social creatures. We need each other. We are vulnerable to each other, but vulnerability is the prerequisite for betrayal. At this point, you might be saying, Esper, go to therapy. By the way, if you're new here, hey, my name is Esper, and I talk about things to a depth nobody asked for. And girl, I'm way ahead of you. I have a therapist, and I talked to her about this. There have been so many times when I've experienced betrayal at the hands of people who only had their own needs and ideas in mind. People who are so afraid to be vulnerable, they cannibalize my vulnerability to feel something. This is a much truer horror for me than any fictional creation. I don't understand why people do it. That's why I started writing this video. I need to deconstruct the way people think and why people would choose horrors instead of building something together. The thing that is so horrific about this is betrayal is a choice. Betrayal is like a flesh-eating bacteria. The degradation of our ability to be vulnerable will ultimately create a hellscape for us, but yet somehow betrayal persists. And to explore why betrayal persists, we will talk about my favorite game, Soma, as it embodies the brand of betrayal that I fear the most, deceptive and intimate. That's the kind that hurts the most too. Soma is set at the end of the world where we follow two people on their divergent quests. Catherine, who wants to save humanity in the form of an ark, scans of real people that live in a virtual world, her life work. And Simon, who is a man out of his own time who simply wants to survive. While Soma has plenty of horrifying monstrosities, by far the most traumatizing aspect of this story is the relationship between Catherine and Simon, and how Simon's powerlessness primes him to give up everything for the reprieve of hope and companionship. Hi, I'm really awkward and weird about asking for support. I'm sweating, but my Patreon is revamped. I've introduced two tiers, a $1 tier for just thoughts and reviews written out in text. And then a second tier, which is just literally a voice podcast.
I'm editing the ad right now while I eat boxed mac and cheese at 11:30 p.m. And I forgot to mention that there is a 7-day free trial. Why am I whispering?
I think these two are great starting points because it's what people have asked for me to do. People wanted me to share my database, and this is kind of a way of doing that. And then people have also asked me a lot if I would start a podcast. So I really hope you guys are interested and you enjoy it. Here is a clip from one of the podcasts that I recorded.
And I was texting my friend Georgina at that time, and I was texting her and being like, I think I was using like a flip phone and T9, and I was like, I really didn't like the way that they did the ending for Breaking Dawn. How could they do something so cliche and annoying that like it was all just a dream? Now I'm like, yeah, whatever. The piece of media is so old, it almost doesn't matter, right? If you want me to like don a critical lens and like put that hat on, I would be like, yeah, it is really stupid that like Breaking Dawn, nothing ever really happened except in the imaginations of the characters. Yeah, sure. But I don't know, man. I started reading these books when I was like, when did they first come out? I'm just going to -4. I was probably like 10 when they first came out. I'm 31 now. It's been 21 years. Does it really matter? No. I got it out of my system, and all of those text messages sent in like, 120 character limits over in succession to my friend who dutifully listened to me very, very kindly. And she said at the end of my rant, she was like, I don't know, I like the ending. I like a happy ending. And me, angsty teenager, going like, no, there should have been consequences. I haven't changed a bit. I haven't changed one bit. Oh my God. Me going, stake and consequences matter. When I was like 13. Oh my God. I just realized I'm still the same person.
So yeah, if you like my content and want more content from me, I would appreciate it if you would consider supporting my Patreon. I really hope you enjoy this video. Thank you for listening to this ad. I guess you could call it an ad for myself. Chapter 1, Horror of Powerlessness. In Soma, you play as Simon. Why is there an asterisk there? Well, Simon really is just a scan of Simon Jarrett's brain, a guy from 2015 who is the first character we meet in Soma. Here's his apartment. Don't judge it too harshly. His brain is bleeding right now. As a part of the treatment for his condition, Simon, 2015, agrees to a brain scan so they can run simulations on what treatments would be best for him. But as the scan finishes, you wake up here.
What happened? Hello? Mr. Munchie? Did something go wrong?
This was simple yet incredibly effective storytelling by the devs. You enter a continuity. From sitting down from the scan and waking up mere moments after, you still feel like the same Simon Jarrett. But here's the thing. You are and you aren't. It's uncertain.
What? What the hell? How is this possible? This is insane!
But what is certain is that this isn't your world. At least, you don't think so. Here is just a brief list of weird shit you have to deal with in the first moments of your new life. Monster of indeterminate origin walking around the place. A robot completely convinced he is human.
So, where are you exactly?
Are you for real? I'm right here. See me waiting? Look at my hands. Hey, buddy.
Okay. I'm just gonna be. I'm not seeing it. I see a machine, a robot talking.
What the hell are you looking at? I'm here. See?
whose dead body you find in the next room.
Oh god, he's dead?
Oh, how could I forget? The dead bodies all over the place. Those dead bodies telepathically speak their dying memories into you.
Hell of a time getting around.
Now let's zoom out and think about this from an outside perspective and just think about how super mega fucked up this is. I'm honestly surprised he didn't lose it. Everything around him changed. He's clearly in an insane situation and he has no idea what is going on. Simon is almost childlike in his helplessness because he has to figure out everything from scratch again. When I play this game, I remember my palms sweating, my heart racing, and frantically spamming buttons trying to figure out what actually made a difference. Watch me limply drop this fire extinguisher on the ground thinking I was throwing it. I was grasping at straws. There is just an overwhelming sense of I didn't know what to do or where to go, and everything around me inspired fear. Powerlessness is horror. It makes you anxious and scared. So when Catherine pops up and gives me direction, she is already in my good graces.
Oh, what's happening? Hello, is there anyone there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you. Absalom, what's going on?
I have no idea. I just sort of woke up here.
In the room right now?
It was like a seat with a helmet.
Is that right? What's your name?
I'm Simon Jarrett.
And what do you... signal... Damn relays. Where are you now?
Someplace dealing with electrical power. I'm not sure if it's a plant or a transformer.
Yeah, you're probably in a thermal plant somewhere. You want to go upstairs to the comm center. It's the room with the dome ceiling.
Hey, look, this place is not... There's something seriously wrong here. Hello?
I'm sorry I didn't catch that. We lost another relay. Just listen, head for the comm center upstairs. I'll wait here.
And the no signal popping up on the screen here does a beautiful job to highlight our powerlessness and loneliness. We were given a taste of help and control over a situation only for it to be taken away by faulty electronics. When I played this part of the game, the reprieve I felt was quickly overtaken by dread soon after I saw that screen. I thought that if I could just get to the comm center and meet Catherine, things would be better, but as with so many things in this game, there is more than meets the eye. To break the fourth wall a little bit, I think that a lot of the initial trauma that Simon faces is made acceptable because we are in a horror game. But this sets us up to underreact with the way Catherine treats us. In contrast to everything else, Catherine is a beacon of hope. She is the first and only coherent voice Simon has heard. But this creates a different sort of powerlessness. The beginning of the game was filled with discovery and exploration. Now, our main source of direction is Catherine. She has a monopoly on our attention and our time, and Simon gives it to her because he is desperate for human connection. While the discovery and exploration was stressful, and God, I love a clear-cut path and routine, there's just something wrong to me about their relationship. When we enter Lambda to meet Catherine, she immediately has us check on the Ark. This is a pretty long interaction, but bear with me because it's important.
Before you do anything hasty, could you help me with something?
What?
I was trying to find out what happened with my project when that brute knocked me to the ground.
Your project? How could anything possibly matter when you know you're a stupid robot in a stupid dead world? So, what's the project about?
My project? Oh, well, I saved all the people on the station as brain scans and put them into an artificial world. We were going to launch it into space to save it from, all of this.
Are you telling me that you were going to launch a computer world filled with people into space?
Yes. It was just a pet project at first, but it got really serious after the comet took out the surface. Then suddenly it became very important, and it was officially named the Ark.
That's appropriate. How far did you get?
Wanna know, that version of me that I am, it came from a scan I did pretty early on. The living Catherine could very well have finished the project and launched it. I guess she could even still be alive. Weird thought.
So the talking robots, are they also scans you did?
They could be, but I doubt it. I'd expect much more sense if that was the case.
Did you catch it? This is where the lies start. Catherine says when Simon asks about the scans in the robots across Upsilon that she doubts there are her scans, while fully knowing that she scanned herself and she was uploaded to the robot. Let's keep watching.
It's on Earth. It's so close to Phi, they almost made it. Damn it, it won't make it for long in that state. A couple of decades at most. That's not much to build a future.
If we got to it, could we get on the Ark?
I suppose, but I'm not exactly flexible at the moment.
Simon immediately becomes interested when he realizes that this could be a way to survive. Catherine then acts weirdly when Simon suggests that they launch the Ark. And if it weren't for the lie earlier, I would have been eager to chalk this up to a misunderstanding.
I'll take us there. I can move, jump, swim, sort of. You're stuck in the door opener, the Omni tool. I'll just carry you there and you'll show me what to do.
That sounds really risky. Besides, I don't like the idea of you carrying me around.
Come on, Catherine. This is what you wanted to do. Your final mission. Let's launch the Ark.
We would need to find a way to get into the Abyss. Can't take the climber without a power suit. We probably have to go to Theta and pray the Dunbat's still working.
Okay, so we go to Theta.
I don't know, it's pretty far.
Catherine, look around. What else is there to do? You know what? I found a sunken vessel just outside. Bet that could take us to Theta.
Really?
Didn't look completely out of action. It even lit up a little when I tried the Omni tool on it.
Okay then, let's have a look.
I don't know. It's pretty far. This is the last thing I'd expect to hear from someone whose entire life work has a chance of making it to completion. I don't know. It's pretty far is what you say when it's 3 a.m. and your friends want to walk 20 blocks back to your hotel after a night of drinking and you say, I don't care. I'll pay for the car. Not when you believe you're saving humanity. So you'll learn as the video goes on just how attached Catherine is to this thing. So people have theorized about why she seems reluctant to launch the Ark. Some people think that this is a manipulation on her part to make Simon think that this is his idea, which I can honestly believe. While I'm not eager to put such bad faith interpretations early on, Catherine leads Simon to the Ark and acts coy about it. It's suspicious. But she was even already working on the Ark before Simon even arrived at Lambda, meaning that she intended to complete it. All I'm going to say is there's something monumental here about making Simon think he has the control. It has been psychologically proven that making people think something is their idea is far more effective than telling them what they should be doing. So if Simon wants to survive, Catherine is leading him to an option for survival. Catherine is giving him hope. And to quote President Snow,
why do you think we have a winner?
What do you mean?
Hope.
Hope?
Hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear.
Look, all I'm saying is, if not sinister, then why does President Snow quote fit? The thing about hope is that it is vulnerable. If you hope for something, you're essentially opening yourself up not only to success, but failure. When you are in a vulnerable state, what you tend to do is look for security. That's exactly what's happening with Simon and Catherine. He is vulnerable and looking for security, and she is able to be that for Simon. I know betrayal is so abstract compared to the horrors in most stories, and I will admit I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to playing games. The dim hallways, the labyrinthian paths, the monsters, yeah, they get me. It's scary, but I think we need to study the fears those tap into to really understand. It's a lack of knowing. It's a lack of security. It's harm. Now think of what betrayal does once it has infected you. It harms you. It instills the idea that you never really truly know what another person wants from you. It robs you of your security, which in turn makes you feel powerless in your own life. If we look at our definition of betrayal, exploiting Simon's powerlessness is a violation of trust for Catherine's personal gain. getting him to use his body to facilitate the work needed to launch the Ark. This manipulation started so early into the meeting that it actually terrifies me. However, even with my fear of betrayal, I still somehow find myself taking the leap to trust another person again and getting hurt again. And I will continue to engage in this Sisyphean horror until the day that I die. For some fucking reason. Anyway, we were doing an analysis. Chapter 2, Manipulation of Your Reality. Now, let's apply this to the relationship between Simon and Catherine. We already understand the knowledge gap between them. Catherine, super mega smart scientist that invented the Ark. Simon, guy from 100 years ago who, low-key, might still have brain damage. His out-of-placeness highlights his naivete and vulnerability due to his powerlessness to do anything to actually move things forward. In this way, the dynamic between Simon and Catherine becomes more like that of a parent and child, caretaker and dependent. What Catherine then sees this reliance as is an opportunity and begins crafting a plan to use Simon to launch the Ark, which seems noble at first, but as I really began to see the story unfold before me, everything that Catherine did felt more and more sinister. While playing the game, there is one thing that is made abundantly clear. To Catherine, nothing holds a greater importance than the Ark, not even the lives of others, not even her own life. Part 1. Short-term manipulation. We now need to talk about the debate people often have. Was Catherine actually deceitful? Yeah. Catherine's plan ultimately came down to 2 steps. Short-term manipulation and sustaining that long enough so Simon feels too bought in to stop. Sunk cost fallacy, some of you cool kids might call it. Get it? Because they're at the bottom of the ocean. Anyway, short-term manipulation is controlling the narrative. This is usually done in a number of ways. Pretending to care, presenting yourself as an authority, which in this case, Catherine actually is, which sells the lie even more, which brings me to the most obvious thing to do, lying, because Simon wouldn't know the difference.
The Cortex chip is good news. That means we can transfer your mind to the Ark with a pilot seat.
Lies are weird because the story I told about my grandmother is an extremely fond memory for me. When I recalled this memory to my aunt, she was surprised at how much I remembered. But while there is so much more that I've forgotten, there's one thing that I'll never forget. The way my grandmother made me feel. I felt empowered and safe around her because intent matters. Sure, she may have told me a few dozen white lies, but everything she did was for my benefit. And when we analyze Catherine's intent, I don't think we can say the same thing. Because Simon doesn't know any better, Catherine gets an opportunity to shape his reality with her lies, and she opts for one that convinces him that the only way to his salvation is through her dreams, the Ark. She promised that he can get on the Ark, but there is one hurdle to this. As we learned earlier, the Ark is located at the deeper parts of Pathos 2, in the depth of the ocean where the suit Simon was wearing would not withstand the pressure of the water. Plan A was the Dunbat. The Dunbat does not work out. So Catherine convinces Simon that she can transfer him to a new body, much like she offered to transfer him into the Ark. Before we go deeper into this line of thought, I want you to listen to how many times Catherine says transfer, and just keep it in the back of your mind for no reason at all.
That means we can transfer your mind to the Ark with a pilot seat. You know how you were transferred from Vancouver?
Toronto.
From then to now. I want to transfer your mind into a new body. Yes, and we can use it to transfer you to the Ark while operating the gun. 2 birds and all that.
But we need to transfer our minds to the Ark.
We also need to make sure it launches at all, so I tied them to a single switch.
And those don't even cover the implied uses of it. Here you go.
Could we get on the Ark?
I suppose, but I'm not exactly flexible at the moment. If I knew what you were made of, it would be a hell of a lot easier to figure out how to get you on the Ark.
What would it be like before? Close my eyes and then...
And then open them again.
One can reasonably assume that Simon's excitement is for himself and not a copy. We'll talk later about how many times she uses the word copy. Soma already presents the idea of scans in a confusing way, in addition to Catherine's deception, at least in the beginning. There is a point where we meet Brandon Wan. I say meet very loosely because who we actually seek out was Brandon's scan because we need information from him.
That wasn't so bad. This robot really got me worked up, bastard. What? What happened? Where did everyone go?
Don't be afraid.
Chun? What happened? I can't see anything. There's nothing here.
It's okay. It's all a part of the scan.
No, that's a lie. You're lying.
Okay, calm down, Mr. Wan.
No. Well, why are you doing this to me? I trusted you, Chun. I trusted you!
But we don't get it right away, nor do we get it from a sane and rational conversation. We essentially get this information from save scumming, constantly reloading and adding a new element into the simulation that we load him into to make him feel at ease enough to divulge a secret.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it. I'm sorry, Mr. Wan. Brandon. Goodbye.
No, wait.
That's enough.
But every time we load him in, we start off at the same save point. Brandon does not remember the previous tries. This is distinct from Simon, who is persistent in the real world. He has memory, and he passes out multiple times during the game and doesn't reset. Even Catherine, existing in the Omni tool, is more persistent than Brandon's scan. She constantly is removed from the docs that give her access to consciousness. If you think about it, the rules are vague at best. Catherine gets powered down when the Omni tool is not in use and retains continuity, whereas the scan of Brandon could be restored from a save point, which makes sense, right? Because that copy of Brandon Wan is new every time. But think about processing this while you're getting chased by monsters. This is incredibly confusing. I remember when I first played Soma, I felt confused about the nature of scans. Part of the main backstory of Soma is that there were people who started killing themselves after they were scanned to retain continuity.
Strusky, come in. I need help in the lab, the scan room.
What happened?
Conrad killed himself after the scan.
Jesus, how?
Laser tool.
So I wondered, is there continuity? If there isn't, how is it that these exceptional people are falling for this lie that's getting them to kill themselves? I mean, now that I'm older and I have learned about the existence of cults, I understand a bit better on how this wildfire idea of continuity spread, but I wasn't sure if Soma as a game was rooted in pure sci-fi or if there was a measure of supernatural in there. Horror as a genre often plays with both, after all. The point being, a lot of the people who criticize Simon for falling for the deception are viewing it from the vantage point of knowing where the story ends. They are not actively experiencing the knowledge gap that Simon is. All of the rules have already been laid out for them. I know I'm beating the think about it from Simon's perspective point like a dead horse that owes me money, but you don't understand the amount of Reddit comments I read of Simon should have figured it out, but neglect to acknowledge the manipulation that is warping Simon's reality. They all missed the point. Part of the true horror of Soma is the fact that Simon could not understand until it was too late because he believed. He was vulnerable. Horror thrives in the unknown, in the convoluted, and in confusion. And if the inventor of the technology told Simon it's a transfer, why wouldn't he believe her? Did we want the alternative where Simon mansplains to Catherine the thing she invented? Now, that's real horror. Part 2. Long-term effects of manipulation. So this brings us to the long-term effects of the manipulation. There will always be a moment when the penny drops. In Soma, that moment is the transfer scene. Catherine was the one who came up with that solution. Listen to that interaction here.
You know how you were transferred from Vancouver?
Toronto.
From then to now.
How could I forget?
Okay, so we do it again.
You want to send me to the future?
No, you idiot. I want to transfer your mind into a new body.
What?
Look, we already know it can be done. We don't need to make it a big deal.
It is a big deal, Kath. It's a huge fucking deal. There's got to be something else that can take us down there.
But Dunbat at Theta was the only vessel that could take that pressure, and you saw what happened.
Then think of something else.
Simon, please. You don't have to switch this instant. Just play along for now. If we find something else, then great. If not...
I'm not promising anything.
Thank you, Simon.
That conversation should have made you uncomfortable. Catherine is coercing Simon to do something that he really doesn't want to do. He expresses abject discomfort, and she asks him to just play along. Catherine's plan A was to deceive Simon. She uses the word transfer twice in this scene alone, as well as the word switch, which has still a different implication than the word copy. And the thing that really gets me about this interaction, and I know it might seem minor, is that she doesn't even remember where Simon was from. Sure, it's an easy mistake to make, but it shows how little she thinks of Simon in this whole thing. And Simon thinks the world of her. And to get back to our analogy of parent and child, caretaker and dependent, Simon is dependent upon Catherine, but she doesn't even see him. When Simon gets back from being chased by a WoW monster, there isn't a word of concern from Catherine about Simon's well-being.
Lock it up!
What's happening?
Lock the door!
It's locked! What's going on?
I managed to piss off another one of WoW's monsters.
We have everything we need, right?
Yeah. Let's get to work.
We have everything we need, right? That should tell you everything that you need to know about this relationship. Simon got in that pilot seat, truly believing in his heart of hearts that he would go from the body he is in now to the new body he built moments ago. So when he hears his own voice from the room he was scanned in, Simon finds out that the transfer isn't really a transfer.
Something wrong. Can't you run a diagnosis or something?
What was that?
And he wasn't supposed to find out. Catherine stumbles through this interaction.
No, it's just...
Why was it still talking?
It's the same like before.
Catherine, why was he still talking?
That's how it works, you know that.
What do you mean?
You know it's not magic. You were copied. The sleeping Simon in the seat was copied, and now you are here, just like Simon lived on in Toronto.
God damn you, Kath. 2 Simons? There can't be 2 Simons.
What did you think would happen?
That you were gonna take my mind and put it into another body, like a brain transplant.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't work that way.
You realize how messed up this is?
Please, I didn't mean to upset you.
How did you expect me to react to this shit?
Please stop.
You're fucking disgusting.
She had planned for Simon 1 to fall asleep quicker so she could convince Simon 2 that he was transferred. When Simon was undeniably distressed, her response that she settled on was, "That's how it works. You know that." This made me mad. Actually, fucking furious, because what do you mean that's how it works? You know that. Recall back to the montage of all of the times Catherine said transfer.
Transfer.
Now, notice that Catherine had said copy twice.
You were copied. The sleeping Simon in the seat was copied.
Honestly, more damning than 0. It shows how Catherine is capable of describing it in a way that makes sense to Simon. This is as good of an admission of deceiving Simon. Simon did not, in fact, know that that's how it worked. Catherine crafted a very specific reality for Simon by using the word transfer. There is no transfer, but Simon still has to find a way to cope with his reality, and thus the coin toss is born.
It's dumb luck, right? I woke up in the right body. I basically flipped a coin, and if I had called the wrong side, I'd be rotting away at Omicron. I mean, there's nowhere to know, right? You didn't hit the make sure Simon wakes up in the right body switch, did you? Not that you would know. I mean, he would still claim to be the right Simon. Christ. This is awful. We did an awful fucking thing. And you wouldn't mind? Why would you? How could you know that it's not me, the me that I am, the same that I've always been? Please say something. I don't want to think. Please.
A lot of people think that Simon is stupid for the coin toss. How could he not have figured it out when the transfer scene happened? But did they not hear the same traumatized person who's clinging on to the last of his identity through sheer and primal survival instinct? Simon is broken. Simon is left with only one of two avenues to keep himself together. Self-annihilation, go his own way without Catherine, and a barren, dead world that cannot give him a purpose, or go toward denial and press forward with a promise of making it into the arc and living that way instead, with a hope that he gets to win the coin toss. So in this scenario, Simon can either confront everything that happened or pretend nothing happened. With Simon's non-existent option pool, he chose denial, which, can you really blame the guy? He experiences intense, groundbreaking, world-shifting revelations in very short moments. He gets betrayed by his only companion and his only option for a companion. The last time your world was this small was when you were a child, and Soma does a good job tapping into those primal fears of loneliness and how it takes a hold of you when you are so stripped bare by your captors that they've taken everything away from you. When they present you with a choice, it's not really a choice anymore. That is how long-term manipulation dismantles you. Learned helplessness is a very real thing. For a very short synopsis on this harrowing study, they put two groups of dogs in a cage that shocks them. Yeah, it's fucking evil. I know. This is what my therapist and I talk about it in my sessions, by the way, because there was a point in my life where I felt like I was self-sabotaging, and I knew it. I felt like I was viewing my body from the outside of myself, and while I was watching an evil version of myself ruin the good work that I was doing, but I was powerless to stop it. Immediately, if things were going well for me, I would throw a wrench in it, almost like I had internalized the abuse that I was receiving, and my body and my mind were complying with that reality that I was a fuck up. This is what I mean when I say manipulation, especially long-term manipulation, will change you. It took so long to unlearn those patterns, and I can't really describe to you the feeling of not having control over your body and your mind, but also knowing that what you're doing is destructive unless you've experienced it yourself. Nor can I teach people how to spot it. So I understand why people don't see that in Simon, but also they're still fucking wrong. Anyway. Okay, back to the study. So one group of dogs was put into this version of it, an electrified and a non-electrified floor, which means that when you put them here, you turn on the electricity, they can escape, right? We're following. But there is another group of dogs that was put in a cage that only had an electrified floor. So you put them here, they go here, it's still electrified. And they could go anywhere within the cage and it will still be electrified, meaning there is no escape. Now, the interesting part of this study is what happens when you take this dog from the electrified group, from the no escape group, and put it in the non-electrified and electrified cage where there is an escape. The thing is, this dog has learned and realized that even its attempts to go anywhere within this cage will lead it to the same outcome. So it stays in the electrified corner. Do you see how our conditioning actually informs our view of the world? This dog's world has changed, right? But it doesn't know that from its experiences. So oftentimes, this dog has to be dragged to the non-electrified portion of the floor. And not just once, not just twice, but over and over and over again before it realizes that it has an avenue for escape. This is what I mean when I say the choice isn't really a choice. The coin flip is a hotly debated topic within the Soma community. But when you're Simon and everything leads back to the arc, you're not going to assume anything else, even if things do change. But from the way I see it, there is no coin flip. Not because there aren't two Simons created, but the coin flip is a representation of the abuse. It is the dangling of hope. In the analogy of learned helplessness, the coin toss is the shocks. It is the continued manipulation of his reality that keeps him tethered to Catherine and her mission, which at the end creates only one outcome, the one wherein Simon does not think to escape. The coin toss is a coexistence of hope and abuse. And if we look at our definition of betrayal, this fits to a T. Catherine blatantly falsified information to get Simon to consent, which is a massive violation of trust, which led him to being too bought into the mission to stop now. A massive personal gain for Catherine, who only has the arc in mind. You can really now see how the abuse has shaped Simon, which brings us to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, How Psychological Torment Changes You. Let's talk about the horror of depersonalization and dehumanization as a byproduct of betrayal. Before we get into it, I'm not talking about the actual psychological diagnosis of depersonalization. That is a more specific thing that I'm not qualified to talk about. I'm talking about a general depersonalization that is to deprive of the sense of personal identity. We're deferring to Merriam-Webster for this one. Shocking, I know. Part 1, Trauma. Catherine changed Simon through trauma. The book The Body Keeps the Score talks a lot about how the ways we are treated changes our body, how even if our brain isn't aware of the source, it acts accordingly to the stresses and trauma that we put it through. One such research was done on morbidly obese people and how their condition is directly correlated to past trauma that they experience. Oftentimes, the bigger body providing them with the security they need to tolerate existing in the world. After all, when the goal is not to be seen or not to be messed with, oftentimes being bigger solves that issue because of societal biases. You don't go picking a fight with the biggest guy on the street. I don't want to go too much more into it because it is a rather heavy topic of abuse, but I do highly recommend you read up on it if you are interested or could stomach more. The point being is that trauma often manifests externally. There was another research done on the interactions between mothers and their children. This time it was on how a caretaker's emotional attitude toward their child affected the child. Emotional withdrawal had the most profound and lasting impact. The critical underlying issue was that these patients didn't know how to feel safe. Lack of safety with an early caregiving relationship led to an impaired sense of inner reality, excessive clinging, and self-damaging behavior. Does this sound familiar? Safety is a big thing that our caregivers provide us early on. They love us, feed us, and ensure that we have our needs met. And because Simon is essentially a man 100 years out of his own time, he requires a level of care. And I think now is as good a time as any to talk about the elephant in the room. You all know me to constantly criticize and reject the stereotypical treatment of women in media, and I would normally reject the idea that Catherine should have to care for Simon. However, in the circumstances around Soma, Catherine is in fact responsible for Simon. Not only is he basically a lost puppy.
I feel awful.
The robots only appear intelligent. They're much more like dogs than humans.
I wouldn't hit a dog.
But she roped him into this whole thing. There is so much coercion from Catherine that goes on in this game. And I know it's to make the game move forward, you know, in the breaking fourth wall meta sense. But like, it still makes me massively uncomfortable. There are people, though, who think that the hate toward Catherine is unwarranted, and some of it is rooted in misogyny and a misunderstanding of neurodivergent people. While I can see their points, ultimately, Soma does something good and presents us with a complicated female character. Catherine is a masterclass of a female character because she's written like a human being. I talk about Catherine as if she's a villain because I believe that, but I can also recognize her desire to save humanity as noble. Catherine is complex, and that is good. The fact that she's a great character that can go either way for people goes along with the very theme of the game. I like that Soma doesn't irrevocably make Catherine right or wrong. They ask us how we view the arc and then by extension, Catherine. There is no right answer in more ways than one. That's what makes Catherine so human. And that's what so many other pieces of media get wrong about writing women. So when Catherine expresses a deep desire to save humanity, but ignores the humanity right in front of her, I am livid. I want to say, Catherine, open up your eyes and use your goddamn brain to see the humanity in front of you. And while you really only have to look at the runtime of this video to know that I am right there with Catherine, an obsession with my work. Part of working with hyperfocus and obsession is recognizing that you can sometimes be your own echo chamber. The reason why I read Reddit comments, talk to my friends, and go touch grass about my obsessions is because I know I have the tendency to think I've definitely figured it all out. And when I'm so often right, which I'm sure Catherine was as well, trying to spot my own weaknesses is a very tough endeavor that if left unchecked can leave me with giant knowledge gaps. But I know for certain that those weaknesses are not held in a vacuum and they will permeate my work in ways that I can't even comprehend if I let them fester. Catherine didn't realize that. Catherine is the late stage progression of what a deep fear of vulnerability gets you.
Did you have friends in Toronto, Simon? Real friends?
There was some. Jesse, Sean, Kevin.
I always wanted a friend. Like a real one, someone you'd never hold back with.
I'll be your friend.
Ow, pity friendship? Now I feel even worse.
When you have felt betrayed enough times, you will shut yourself off. This is clear in the way that Catherine reacts to her own death.
How did she die?
You got into a fight with your colleagues. They didn't want to risk launching the Ark. Thought it might not make it through the atmosphere.
They killed me?
I'm sure it was an accident. They were just trying to stop you from launching.
How could they kill me?
Catherine.
I know I'm not an easy person to like. I just thought they trusted me.
Come on, don't do this to yourself.
Let's just get this out of the way. Peterson, the guy who killed Catherine, was absolutely not correct in this. But I want to focus on Catherine saying she knows she's not easy to like. Look, I understand to a certain degree how Catherine felt because making friends is hard. Like real, true ride or dies. In case you guys haven't noticed, I'm real weird. But Catherine's isolation is only one side of the story. Throughout the game, we've witnessed people standing up for, trying to befriend, and talking about Catherine positively.
Sarah, are you there? Who is this? Catherine? I'm busy working. Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for what you did. Don't worry about it, but you should stand up for yourself. I mean, Strohmeyer doesn't have that kind of authority. You can just tell him to go fuck himself. Oh, I just don't. I'm not that kind of a person. You can't expect people to fight for you all the time. You're a brilliant person, Kath. You're so smart it makes my head spin, but sometimes you just disappear into yourself. Suddenly it's like talking to a fucking 5-year-old. It's just hard. I can't just be more like that. Everyone would know I'm pretending. It's not too late to win people over. Strasky likes you. I like you. Reed likes you. Strasky likes everybody. Yeah, that's true. Wait, you think Reed likes me? Catherine, a lot of people like you. You just need to open up a little. Be more approachable. Can I get back to work now? I'd rather not be reprimanded twice in one day. Okay, see you back inside. Over and out.
We can all sense here that Lindwall is a bit of a no-nonsense person, which makes what she says even more credible. She's not giving Catherine platitudes. She is giving it to Catherine as it is. I think we can genuinely take her word for the fact that people liked Catherine. But for Catherine, it was probably easier for her to retreat into her work than explore those emotions. To get to the point with someone where you don't have to mask, and if you don't know what that is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It takes a certain amount of time, investment into the relationship, communication, vulnerability, and yes, to a degree, compatibility. But friendships are built over time, and yes, so many of them will fail. My childhood best friend of 15 years ghosted me when we were in our early 20s, and you bet your bottom fucking dollar that shit still makes me want to cry some days. But on the flip side, one of my friends literally gave me a place to live during COVID so I can escape my awful, terrible living situation. I lived with him and his wife for over a year. I took the photos at their wedding. I'm still friends with the first person I made friends with when I moved to New York City. They picked me up from my surgery last year. You will get betrayed and you will get hurt, but you don't get the hits without the swings. And it feels to me Catherine protected herself by just never swinging. That is why she is unable to conceptualize humanity in a complex way. She is unable to see the humanity in Simon because she has found a way to process humanity in a scientific way rather than in the messy complexity of human personalities, and that was a lot safer. But there's just no substitute for genuine vulnerability. I understand shutting yourself away. In my own life, I've had something of a rocky relationship with vulnerability. I have very big feelings. I get angry a lot. I cry very easily, much more so when I was younger, but still. Sadness creeps up on me slowly, but encompassingly. But I'm also extremely happy when I am happy. I can ride the joy of excitement very well. Don't try to diagnose what I've got. I don't know, and you're not a doctor, unless you are, but you're still not my doctor. Anyway, I've gotten hurt a lot. I say halfway through a video essay on betrayal, as if you haven't figured it out. All of this to say, I've felt stupid so many times in my life for trusting people, for being vulnerable, and for getting betrayed. I've felt less like myself and less human in those moments. Was I really only good for the things that those people have violated my trust for? How could they do this to me? This is fucking horrifying. This has kept me up at night levels of fear. The traumatic act of betrayal really does change a person. And in Soma, we see how this imbalance of vulnerability dismantles both Catherine and Simon and prevents them from having the equal friendship that they both seem to desire. Catherine, unable to let go of her desire for control and seeking the completion of the ARC project, and Simon thinking that relinquishing his own desires would eventually lead him to getting the relationships and outcomes he wants. And so, Catherine controls and Simon follows. Part 2. Depersonalization and Dehumanization. We still haven't talked about what ultimately happens to Simon 1 at Omicron.
What's gonna happen to him?
He'll sleep for a while, a few days.
And then what? Wake up in this fucking nightmare again? All alone? So cruel.
Well, what do you want me to do with him? Make friends? Let him know that we have to leave him behind when we go into the abyss?
What if he didn't need to wake up?
You'd do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
There. I set it up for you. Hit the switch if you want to drain his battery. He'll die within a minute. I'd rather not stay plugged in any longer.
Simon 2 is given the choice to kill his old self, which the implications of are just as harrowing as you think it is. This is fucked up. One choice is to kill his old self and keep him from suffering a fate of infinite loneliness and solitude at the bottom of the ocean where he has nowhere else to go and nothing to do but sit with the knowledge that his only companion left him. Or you, as Simon 2, have to live with knowing you killed someone. And there is no ambiguity here in the way that there was ambiguity in the Brandon Wan scene. Simon knows literally firsthand the thoughts, feelings, and experiences of this man he is about to kill. There is no plausible deniability that he can run away to. In a very metaphoric way, this feels to me like the choice to kill your old self that is weak and gullible to create a future for your hardened self. I've come to this crossroads a lot in my life. Kill the weaker version of me so that I can survive another day, and whatever parts of myself I lose in the process be damned. It is just as harrowing a process as you imagine, but to continue to be vulnerable often means suffering over and over again, like Simon 1 would if we were to let him live. So you come to the crossroads, trade parts of yourself to lessen the suffering, or live in the hurt. If you played this game and struggled at this choice, that is a normal reaction, healthy even. But the difference is, you didn't just doom Simon 1 to spend an eternity trapped in a room. It's curious that Catherine finds the mercy kill reprehensible, but not sentencing him to an eternity of solitude and abandonment, which is persistent torture. If we look at this from the perspective of our definition of betrayal, this fits perfectly. Betrayal is a violation of trust for personal gain. Catherine, by misleading Simon, took away any true ability he had to consent to what was going to happen, because it is starkly different to consent to being transferred bodies to creating a conscious copy of yourself. As for the personal gain, Catherine convincing Simon to do this gets her closer to her one goal of launching the Ark. She thought that the greater good of launching the Ark outweighed Simon's agency and sanity, which she doesn't get to make that call. There's not enough discourse on how trauma and coping go hand in hand, at least not in the Soma fandom. What could Simon really do when his fate was controlled by Catherine? He is powerless. Where else would he go? Into the abyss? Imagine the fear, confusion, and anger Simon must feel in this moment. He realizes that he never had the power to consent to what was happening, that Catherine took that away when she created this alternate reality for him. Violation of consent is a serious traumatic act. It is horrifying, and Simon has to reconcile with all of those times that he volunteered for this mission and wonder if anything was ever real. There is a quote from the book, The Body Keeps the Score, that talks about abuse in children that I think fits very, very well here. In the later years, I, the author of the book, encountered a similar phenomenon in victims of child abuse. Most of them suffer from agonizing shame about the actions they took to survive and maintain a connection with the person who abused them. This was particularly true if the abuser was someone close to the child, as is so often the case. The result can be confusion about whether one was a victim or a willing participant, which in turn leads to bewilderment about the difference between love and terror, pain and pleasure. The true horror of betrayal is that we must make ourselves vulnerable to connect and experience the world in a way that is rich and fulfilling. There are people out there who see that vulnerability, however, as opportunity for gain. To partially answer the question I posed earlier of why do some people betray, sometimes betrayal isn't grand. Sometimes it's just someone looking upon you and deciding that they like what you have to offer and will deceive you in order to get it. Sometimes betrayal is nothing more than someone never seeing you for the nuanced person that you are and deciding your worth on your usefulness to them and acting accordingly. Sometimes betrayal is someone ripping you apart at your very vulnerabilities and discarding you when you've become too broken for them. Catherine's betrayal is a product of her hanging on to what is comfortable and real to her. To her, the Ark is real. The Ark will save humanity. Simon is a means to achieve what is right, and that is a slippery slope, because when you think that way, you make someone less human and you forget all of the complexities attached to them. You hurt them. There's something truly horrifying about the acts of another person irrevocably changing you against your will and leaving lasting scars. Someone stripping you of your complexities as a human and harvesting you for only the parts they find desirable. Catherine's manipulation of Simon's worldview, followed by the betrayal at Omicron, primed Simon to surrender and dedicate himself to this mission, which is depersonalization. He was gaslit to no longer having his own desires and was conditioned to only align himself with Catherine, for he had no other avenues of survival. Whether this was conscious or subconscious at Catherine's part, I won't make a determination on, but more and more as time went on, this depersonalization turned into dehumanization. Simon became less and less a person to Catherine and more a tool to see the completion of the Ark mission. It is very telling the way she could only view the suicides around the Ark in the lens of how it affected the project. Whether this is emotional ineptitude or a lack of care, it is still telling how Catherine views the world. It is for or against the Ark, and her world exists in those blacks and whites. It is also telling how when she no longer needed Simon, she was eager to discard him, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. When I first started writing this video, I wrote that Catherine was the villain, but it felt unfair because I was recalling this from my playthrough of almost 10 years ago. So I backspaced and I went to rewatching Soma and giving Catherine a fair chance. I came to the same conclusion again. The only way that you can side with Catherine in this is if you truly believe that the Ark is the saving grace of humanity. And I don't believe that. To fully impress upon you the horrors and dangers of how depersonalization and dehumanization can mess you up, we need to talk about the B-plot of Soma, Johan Ross, and how he parallels Catherine. Part 3, The Foil. This is Johan Ross. He's real charming. You can really see why. Simon just followed his orders. The weird altered form of Ross, the former scientist dedicated to WoW research, leads Simon to Site Alpha, a super secret base that houses the WoW core, to poison the WoW and put an end to it once and for all. Ross urges Simon to stick his hand in this weird butthole looking thing. Look, there's no other way to describe it. I'm open to suggestions, but I know you were also thinking it, okay? But Simon does it. Can we please just discuss the fact that Simon is taking orders from a monster? Ross is no longer in his physical human form, at least not one that we would recognize. He's essentially been stalking Simon, being creepy, sending him cryptic messages, and nudging him along the path that puts Simon where he wants to be. Sound familiar?
Switch this instant, just play along for now. If we find something else, then great. If not...
And of course, this ends badly for Simon. The WoW core consumes Simon's hand, and then Ross attempts to murder him. Simon is far more easily victimized now because he is traumatized, depersonalized, and dehumanized. He's having trouble accurately judging what he should and should not be doing. Ross came at a point in Simon's dehumanization and depersonalization where it has progressed so far that he didn't even need deception like Catherine did. Simon was already so broken by this point. I hope this is really highlighting for you how betrayal can mess you up. Simon has fully slotted into the role of fulfilling other people's desires. People pleasers in chat. Are you listening? Anyway, Simon views himself as a tool because when he functioned as one for Catherine, that was the only time he was rewarded with human interaction. Simon is just barely clinging on to the small vestiges of him that remains human. The only thing keeping him together is his false belief that he will survive. This is why I have such beef with the Simon should have figured it out people. Simon did figure it out, but if he admitted it, he would have fallen apart. Did this scene not mean anything to you?
So my mind is covering it up, pretending nothing's different.
If it didn't, you'd probably be incapable of interacting with the world at all. And the stress would either kill you or make you go insane.
So I've found a good balance between awareness and ignorance. Does that mean I shouldn't think about this stuff, or are my thoughts actually making me cope? Could I tip the balance by suddenly gaining some insight and then go insane?
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, we have real things to deal with. Saving mankind, remember?
Ross is a case of destructive individualism like Catherine. Where it differs is Catherine's individualism is born out of her fear of vulnerability, and she retreated into her work. Ross is afraid of his own creation and is operating out of that fear without even considering that there is nothing left for the WoW to destroy, and in fact created perhaps a solution to the very problem it created. Simon. He clearly has a strong idea as to what he thought was the correct answer though, but when someone has too inflexible of an idea of what the correct thing is, they often create harm in the pursuit of it. Famously, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It is a warning that good intentions aren't enough. Good intentions must also be followed by good actions. Johan Ross as a foil for Catherine is actually quite masterful of the writers of Soma to include. It shows how similarly a fear of vulnerability can function to desperate fear of being at the mercy of a monster as the WoW had become. Internal fears, much like those of betrayal, are just as motivating as fears of the material, and Simon's fear of loneliness sets him up to pour out vulnerability and hopes for connection, and it gets him hurt. A lot. Because, this is a little bit beyond stranger danger, no? Ross is very clearly a malevolent force, and Simon acknowledges it. Ross pressures Simon to do what he wants, which Simon just does because he hit his breaking point on his depersonalization at Omicron when he faced the option to kill Simon 1. With that depersonalization, he loses his ability to self-preserve because how can you after you destroy yourself? Quite literally. This is akin to the phenomena of kids who come from abusive households who end up in abusive relationships and situations themselves. But Simon still bears a little bit of hope in the form of surviving through the arc. And when the time does come for Simon to reap the fruits of his labor and board the ark, Catherine says to Simon, I tied the launch and the transfer to a single button so that we can be sure it launches.
When you are, just hit the button and we're off.
But we need to transfer our minds to the Ark.
We also need to make sure it launches at all, so I tied them to a single switch. Just push the button and we're off.
Continuing the deception that the scans are a transfer and not a copy.
Here we go. No turning back.
Thank you, Simon.
Don't mention.
It's an amazing thing you did. And I want you to know I appreciate it.
Notice as well how Simon's scan is after hers, then she doesn't say a word. Then this conversation happens.
Yes! Fuck yeah! We made it! I'm still here. I'm still here. Catherine? Catherine?
I'm here.
What the hell happened? What went wrong?
Nothing. They're out there, among the stars. We're here.
No. We were getting on the Ark. I saw it. It finished loading just before it launched.
Yeah, I saw.
Then why are we still here?
Simon, I can't keep telling you how it works. You won't listen. You know why we're here. You were copied onto the Ark. You just didn't carry over. You lost the coin toss. We both did. Just like Simon at Omicron, just like the man who died in Toronto 100 years ago.
No. This is bullshit. We came all this way. We launched the Ark.
I know it sucks, but our copies are up there. Catherine and Simon are both safe on the Ark. Be happy for them.
Are you crazy? We're gonna die down here with those fuckers living at large on a spaceship. They're not us. They're not us.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Simon. I'm proud of what we did. We made sure that something of the hundreds of thousands of years of human history survives, that something lives on.
No. Fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck you, Catherine. You lied. And I believed in you. I trusted you. You said we're getting on the fucking Ark.
We are on the Ark, you idiot. I didn't lie. I can't be responsible for your goddamn ignorance. You
fuck! Catherine? Please don't leave me alone. Catherine? Catherine?
It is disingenuous, horrific, and outright false that this was Simon's ignorance. It was a carefully crafted world that Catherine built, aided by the vulnerability that Simon felt, pushing him toward seeking companionship and support from Catherine, that she weaponized, that built this elaborate lie. Then she says it again, the word copy. Catherine only uses this word once she has gotten to the point where the scans are already executed. And I will repeat myself. It is very telling that her choice of words only become clear when she is placing the blame for Simon's so-called ignorance when she blatantly calls it a transfer every other time. The thing that really convinces me that Catherine is the villain is at no point was she convinced that what she was doing was wrong. I would have been completely fine if Catherine said, I'm the villain, but I'm doing what I think is right. But her methods were Machiavellian. Simon loses himself, his identity, and if that wasn't enough, he has to reckon alone with the fact that his salvation never was, and that he was used by the one person he could think of as almost a friend. And I would even go so far as to say that Catherine used Simon and abandoned him the moment she was done with him. The chip she was stored in might not have been able to handle extreme emotions, but she chose to let it out and abandon Simon in that moment. Ross and Catherine are true parallels in how they use Simon. They both start out courting Simon to their cause. Catherine with the promise of salvation, and Ross with creepy favors like opening up Omicron for them. They then urge Simon to invest in their interest. After getting the buy-in that they want, they present a point of no return. With Catherine, it was the transfer, and with Ross, it was Simon poisoning the WoW core. Then they both kill him, or at least in Ross's case, attempt to, with Catherine leaving Simon to die at the bottom of the ocean. If you thought that Ross was a villain, then consequently, Catherine should also be a villain in your eyes. All of this horror is built upon them violently violating Simon's trust for their own personal gain. Betrayal. Chapter 4. Was it all worth it? In writing, there is something called killing your darlings. This is removing the parts of the story that you like, that do not serve the overall plot. Catherine never examined if she needed to kill her darlings. There are quite a few things for me to consider to make a determination on whether or not this was worth it. We need to look at what the arc really is, and the suffering that was inflicted on Simon, and what humanity really is. At one point, Catherine tells Simon that the point of the arc was always hope, and she makes a convincing argument.
Do you think the Ark will make it through the atmosphere and into space?
It almost doesn't matter anymore. We just need to try. If we burn, we burn. If we're lucky, we just gave humanity a new chance, a whole new era. With the Ark on Earth, maybe we have a few decades of power to keep it running. In space, we have thousands of years.
Still, one hell of a gamble, though.
This was never about certainty. It's about hope.
However beautiful this speech was, maybe the work I've done for this video has disillusioned me to the Ark, because all I can really think of here is, who is the Ark hope for? It is a computer that is meant to live in space until its components break down. Sure, the idea of something human surviving is romantic, but at what point is this narcissism? Why overlook the humanity that is present here within Simon in lieu of the Ark? There is a part of me that looks at the Ark and wonders how this is any different from launching a copy of a playthrough of Sims. I know, this is disingenuous, but when we talk about hope, who is that hope for? Lindwall was the last human being of sound mind on Pathos 2, and she chose to pass on. And in the cold void of space, what are we really supposed to expect from the Ark? Is a mere act of existing hope? Is this really a worthwhile successor to humanity? I personally don't think so. Here's what I really think. I think that the Ark gave the people on Pathos 2 something to do and look forward to keep the morale up until they started killing themselves. The last people at the bottom of the ocean with no home to return to needed something to hope for. That's what the Ark is for. But we should honor the spirit of the question. Is Catherine actually saving humanity? Here is my disconnect. Part of what makes us human is our body. Our minds are only a part of the equation. There is this field of study called epigenetics. These are changes that happen in your gene expression based on what happens to you during your lifetime and your ancestors' lifetime too. There's a famous study of the Dutch famine and the children born around that time. Their study suggests that the Dutch hunger winter silenced certain genes in unborn children, and that those genes have stayed silent ever since. I know this is a very clinical answer to an otherwise very philosophical question, but there is too much focus on the enigmatic nature of the mind. We focus on what our minds remember, but we don't think about the information our body stores. How we are treated in our environments can change our epigenetics. Our minds are only one part of our malleable expression. And I think that this is at the crux of humanity. We are able to pass down, change, and evolve in both mind and body. Even Catherine at one point, maybe unintentionally, acknowledges this. Simon doesn't break down because of a sound mind and a sound body. There's this fantastic little segment of the Magnus Archives that covers this idea. Let me play it for you here.
Look, I don't want to rush.
I've got a lot of friends whose retirement plans basically comes down to uploading their minds into a computer and living forever in a virtual world. They're so sure it's just around the corner. I've never had the heart to tell them it's impossible. That the human brain is a wet mess of analog signal interpretation that is as far removed from the clean logics of digital processing as it's possible to be. We've tricked ourselves into thinking that computers and people have anything in common. But no matter how good we may program them to be at pretending to think like us, that's all we'll ever be. Crossing the line from meat and chemicals into pure digital systems is impossible. And everything else is just sophisticated programming, an illusion.
Without a body to give to the residents of the Ark, I think that the Ark is nothing more than storage. I'm really stuck on the idea that you can just reboot the Ark like you did with a simulation with Brandon and start from scratch again. I don't know any other way in which to say it other than the lack of permanence makes it inhuman. Consequence is a vital part of humanity. This is what really gets me about Catherine's cruelty towards Simon. She was so focused on hope as a concept that she didn't recognize the hope right in front of her. In my personal opinion, the way she treated Simon was not worthwhile to send the scans of people into space. If the Ark lived in the bottom of the ocean, nothing changes about the simulation. Even if they had just waited to also forge a survival scenario for Simon, nothing would have changed. They had at least a couple of decades to figure out the solution. Some of you may be wondering why, if Catherine is also a victim of her circumstance and her own trauma, why am I so hard on her? It's because she had so many chances to break the cycle, whether it was through befriending her colleagues like Lindwall had suggested, or through saving Simon, and she opted for what she had distilled down as safe and palatable every single time, going so far as to coerce Simon to things that he wasn't comfortable with because she thought she was in the right. The permanence of the hurt she inflicted on Simon, who was just starting his life out, really stuck with me. Simon had a strong instinct for survival, and in my not so humble opinion, Catherine should have been willing to let Simon succeed humanity, and even if not instead of the Ark, alongside it. But instead, she dooms him in the same way she so callously doomed Simon 1. Can we talk about the fact that she did it not once, but twice? Her inability to see the humanity in Simon and her subsequent lack of care is the horror of betrayal. Simon deserved to be saved just as much as the Ark, if not more. And if Catherine could listen and could see Simon, maybe we would have a different story and a relationship between them both that is worthwhile. To fully answer the question of why do people betray and analyze this horror within our lives and how it permeates us, I think we have to think about what it really means to be with each other. Ultimately, what betrayal is the short-sightedness of not realizing the permanence of the things we do. It's very, very easy to think that things don't matter, but they do. A smile to a person who's having a bad day, a favor to a friend who might be struggling. All of these things are permanence, and they are stored not only in our minds, but in our bodies in the way that we feel. Permanence is about realizing that there is consequence, but also subsequently realizing that what we do matters. And without all of that, we become a horror to each other. The one person who taught me about permanence is my grandmother. So I was raised by my grandmother for most of my childhood. She taught me a lot of things. She loved me very, very thoroughly. She tried her best to equip me to face the world that we are facing now. Look, she was born in the 1920-somethings, and she didn't really have many choices, right? She was going to quit the job that she had, get married, have kids, take care of those kids, and, apparently also take care of her grandkid. But in that time, she taught me so many things, and she cared for me in so many ways that I still remember, not only in my mind, but in my body today. She taught me how to crochet. She taught me to walk after I eat. She taught me how to string sampaguita through a thread. She taught me that I can be who I want to be so long as I believed in myself. She taught me how to respect others, and she taught me how to set boundaries for myself. And ultimately, these are the skills, and this is the love that saved my life, right? When you are in your formative years, having that base, that secure base to go back to is invaluable. It's irreplaceable. And my grandmother died when I was 12, but she still made her mark and had her permanence set in stone with me and with the people that I touch throughout my life. And I have made it my own personal mission and the ethos of my life to be good to other people. Ultimately, that is legacy, that is permanence. And yeah, sometimes being good to people gets you hurt, it gets you exploited. Sometimes being good to people makes them look at you as weak. Sometimes being good to people makes them look at you as if you are a mine to be exploited and taken from until there is nothing left, right? I stand by the fact that vulnerability is a Sisyphean horror because of the short-sightedness of betrayal. But ultimately, there is no other choice for us to live fully in this world. We have to be vulnerable, and we have to face the fact that betrayal can be around any corner, but that the antidote to it is finding other people that are kind to us and being kind in turn. Because ultimately, facing down the fear of betrayal is what got me the life that I have now, and I would not trade that for anything else. I hope in some ways that this video has reached you in ways that you needed. And if there is somebody out in the world who you think could use this message, send them this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.